There we go. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy. I am Susanna, joining you from Helsinki, Finland, and I will be your host today. I'm a big fan of Buddhism, recovery, and Buddhist recovery. I facilitate both 8-step recovery meetings and mindfulness-based addiction recovery courses here in Finland. I'm a member of the board of the Buddhist Recovery Network. And today we have a new academy teaching offered by Kate Johnson. The pronouns are she and her. And thanks for everyone for being here and being part of our community today. And all of our teachings are given freely, and we are blessed with some amazing teachers like Kate, who have experience, on the cushion experience, working with body, speech, and mind, experience in the ongoing practice of recovery by the way of Dharma. And as we practice the Buddha's teaching of generosity, we invite you to give dana that will be given to support our ongoing Buddhist Recovery Network meetings and to support the teacher. You can give on a one-time or recurring basis using the link that will be posted to the chat field by our tech, who is due tonight. So please be sure to indicate that your donation is for the Academy, and we sincerely thank you for your generosity. And just in case, if you forget to put there that it's for the Academy, if you have put your given your dana during this session, right before or right after, we will put those under the dana anyway. So if you forgot to mention. So now to the main thing of the evening. I'd like to introduce our guest teacher. So Kate Johnson is a meditation teacher, facilitator, writer, and mother. Kate has practiced Theravada Buddhism in the Western Insight lineage since her early 20s, has participated in many multi-month retreats and multi-year teacher training, and was authorized in 2020 through Spirit Rock Meditation Center's 4-year retreat teacher training under the leadership of Gina Sharpe, Larry Young, and Lila Kate Wheeler. And I again hope that I got all the names correct. English is my second language, so be compassionate and kind towards me if I got something wrong. Kate began facilitating organizational training and retreats after co-founding the meditation working group at Occupy Wall Street in 2011. She later joined the faculty of MIT's Presenting Institute and went on to consult with leaders and organizations committed to equity, sustainability, and the practice of wise relationship, using awareness-based and embodied practices to support communication, strategy, and relational culture. Currently, Kate is enjoying serving engaged Buddhists and activists as the co-director of programs and partnership at Buddhist Peace Fellowship. She holds BFA in modern dance from the Alvin Ailey School, Fordham University, and MA in performance studies from NYU. She's the author of the book Radical Friendship: 7 Ways to Love Yourself and Find Your People in an Unjust World. In her off hours, she can be found exploring Philly with the kids, sipping tea with friends, and looking for all manner of good trouble. Thank you very much, Kate, and nice to have you here. And the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Susanna. And hi, everybody. I'm going to change my face just got really big, so I'm just going to change the gallery view. Beautiful. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. And yeah, I really appreciate Susanna and Stu for your service and all of you for showing up. I just want to name that the mama part of my bio is really alive. I put my kid to bed just now for her nap, and I think she'll be winding down but sometimes I hear her kind of singing. She learned recently that she can keep herself awake by singing at the top of her lungs. So right now I hear her singing, "You Are My Sunshine," and you may hear some of that too as we meditate. We'll just consider it, another object in the field of our awareness. But yeah, it's a delight to be here. And I didn't, one of the reasons why I feel appreciative of Susanna and Stu is that I'm not the easiest person to work with and never replied to their emails about what the topic was for this practice today. But the topic that's been on my heart and that I've been thinking about with relationship to this community and my own recovery is strengthening self-trust. Oh, is the volume very quiet? Belle says the volume's quiet. Maybe.
No, it's okay. I can hear you okay.
Okay. Sorry about that, Mel. I'll figure out on your end. Yeah. Establishing and strengthening the faculty of self-trust, which has been very, very important to me in recovery, also as a woman of color, as a survivor. So I'm grateful because I feel like the Buddha Dharma gives us so many ways to establish trust and to ground in what it is that we know, and to acknowledge and like dance with the uncertainty of what it is that we don't know. And so we'll do a little bit of both of those things. Okay, so I'm hearing a couple people say that their volume is very quiet, but some people are saying it's okay. And I don't know what to do about that. I want you to be able to hear me. Susanna, Stu, any ideas?
No, I can hear you normally. I would like them to check their volume and if their sound is connected to some other device. For example, sometimes my sound connects to the Bluetooth headphones and I hear it very quiet from the table. So.
Okay. I'll do my best to speak up, and I'll bring the computer a little closer also too. So my face will be really big now. Okay. So how about we do some practice first? And then we can, I can offer a couple of thoughts about trust. The way that I think the Buddha talked about it is in the list of the 5 spiritual faculties, the faculty of faith or sada. But I think that it's often translated as faith, but I think we could probably, I like to think of it as trust, and I'll tell you a little bit more why. And then, yeah, we'll really want to have some time for you to share your insights and your learnings from your practice. And if you have questions, I'm also happy to just talk through some ideas with you. Does that sound okay? Okay, great. Oh, I see some friends here that I know. It's so good to see you. All right, let's get into it. So if you're in a place that's not a car or walking down the street where you can close your eyes and you feel safe to do so, please go ahead and do that. Sometimes actually even before closing eyes, you could like look around your space and just see what you see. It can give a signal to the nervous system that everything's okay here. Even though we know there's no tigers in the house, like just kind of checking out the corners and behind space can be helpful. And then if you wouldn't mind, closing your eyes if you feel comfortable, or if not, just lowering them to the space in front of your screen, away from the screen. And I'll invite you to take a couple of deeper breaths. We'll be practicing here for maybe 15 minutes or so. And just letting yourself have a soft landing into your cushion or your chair, wherever you're sitting. It doesn't have to be like a big deal, kind of hard start. Just kind of easing into your practice and connecting with your breath and this sense of having a body. And the beautiful thing about having a body is that whatever sensations we're noticing are only happening in the present moment. And we know that for certain that they're true, right? We can know that we can feel our breath. We can feel our body sensations. We know we can trust that the floor is beneath us in this moment. So taking a few moments to just connect with the felt experience of being in your body, either through the feeling of your breath or through connecting with the ground below you. And as you practice, whenever you notice the mind starting to wander into planning mode or a fantasy or a regret, you can just drop in the question, what's true now? Sitting and breathing. Sunday, October 1st. Ambient sounds in your space. Softness of the bed or hardness of the chair. And letting what's true now be something that you can trust. Sense that there may be lots of unknowns in this world, but something we know for sure is that this inhalation is happening, or that the birds are chirping, or that the feet are resting on the floor. Every so often, just returning your awareness to what's true in this body, this heart, this mind, this moment, this spot on the earth that you're on. Even in this uncertainty of each human life, there are things that we can count on. Connecting to the present moment through the sensation of our bodies is one of them. And these last couple of moments of our practice before we open our awareness out again, just an invitation to drop into the question, what else do I know to be true? What else do I trust? And no need to go on an archaeological dig. If nothing emerges, that's totally fine. Almost like you're dropping a pebble in a pond and watching the ripples. Naming to yourself the anchors of your belief or your experience that you feel certain of, that you feel like you can rely on, that you know for sure about yourself, about humanity, about this world. So I recognize chat might not be accessible to everyone. Thank you for your practice, but I just wanted to invite you to share if there is anything that emerged for you around what you know for sure, what you trust, about yourself or about this world, about this community. Just an invitation to pop it in the chat. One or two things you feel like, okay, might not know much, but this I know. We'll just take a couple moments. know that some of you are listening and may not be able to see the chat, so I'll just read out, I may not be able to read the whole comment, but a few words that folks are sharing here, and it feels good even just to read them and see them. Trust and love from someone who lost their brother Wednesday to addiction. So, sending you so much love. Gratitude for the community, trust in the earth, the sky above my head, the breath in my nostrils, the dependably present body here and now, examining trust, sensation of fear, I am here, gravity, life is finite, do what you love, my breath. Okay. Thank you for what was shared, and also anything that's in your heart that wasn't shared, or, appreciating too the kind of statement of, okay, examining this and also noticing fear arising. I think there can be this experience of shakiness or uncertainty when we try to kind of put our finger on, like, well, what's true here? What do I know? And that actually is a little bit of an insight, I think, into the way that the Buddha talked about reality, which is that there is so much in our phenomenal world that is kind of shifting and shimmering and changing. And it can feel at times like we're just kind of, being blown about in the wind, or like, and actually, it's a both and situation where there are so many things that are changing, and there are a few anchors that are really quite stable, and that those are some places where we can begin to grow a sense of trust, a sense of faith, in our own in ourselves and our own experience, and also in each other and what humanity is. Kiddo still singing. She may make an appearance, so let me talk really, really fast so I can get this all out. No, I'm kidding. I'll tell you a little bit about why this topic was important to me. I have been sober and in recovery for a little over 12 years. I was definitely a dedicated Buddhist practitioner before I got sober. And I'm glad, because this practice and these teachings have really supported my recovery, and given me like a wide understanding of what recovery can be. It's like a pleasure to be abstinent from drugs and alcohol. It never gets old to wake up like without a hangover and with clarity and excited to meet the day. And also, it has been a support to my recovery to define my spirituality broadly, and to be able to let my recovery be mine and my own, and something that like have like sovereignty over, and I trust myself to design. And it wasn't always that way. When I first came into 12-step recovery programs, like I said, I was a practicing Buddhist. I had gone to all these meditation retreats, and I couldn't stop drinking, and I couldn't stop doing drugs. I didn't know why, and it felt like such a double life. And I did find some comfort in my early days of recovery in places where people told me things like, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth, and told me that, said things like, my best thinking is what got me here, and that I shouldn't, and gave me like a community to call on, to ask about like ideas that I had or things that I wanted to do, because there was this sense that I was almost like a newborn baby, and like had to learn how to do things like my laundry and like taking the subway all over again. I might have to go get this baby. Let's see how it goes. So it was helpful to develop like a healthy doubt about the security of my own thinking, which often took me into places that were places of despair, places where there was no way out, but to kind of numb my consciousness and try to like, or basically like do whatever I could to change the way I felt, you know. And so I don't want to say I'm not grateful for those spaces or grateful for that kind of like, hey, like you've been relying too much on what you think up here. Like try like questioning that and maybe talking to other people, like running it through a couple other people. I remember my first like romantic relationship. I had a sponsor at the time who forbade me from talking to my partner about anything like about our relationship without running it by another sober person first. She was like, Kate, what comes out of your mind, too intense. She was like, it's like a freshly dyed shirt. She was like, run it through the wash a few times before you hand it to your partner, you know? And so all those things are really helpful, and they also help me start to develop relationships of trust with other people, right? Where I could trust them with what I was thinking and feeling, and see that they wouldn't judge me, and see that sometimes they had had the same experiences too and could help me from their own experiences. And what I'll say happened for me is over time, I swung a little bit too far in the other direction, where it was like I was calling other people before I did everything. Like every single, decision about work, about life, about relationship. It was just like I knew what I wanted to do, but I would still call 5 different people because that's what I did like earliest in my recovery and what had worked for me before. And I found that there was like this wavering in the mind that in Buddhism we would call the hindrance of doubt. Right? This fear of like not being able to know what reality is on my own, not be able to trust my own thinking. And even when I got kind of surveyed from other people and like got different opinions, not able to land on what was actually like the right place to go. I had another sponsor who said at this point in my recovery, because I would have this, how doubt emerges in the Buddha Dharma and how we can see just, I think it can be an obstacle to recovery. Oh my God. Can you hear my daughter? Okay, she may be on her last show tune. We'll see. Another sponsor who said something like, the disease is in the debate and the peace is in the pause. And that really spoke to me, this sense of like, oh, I could see that, like, should I do this or should I do that? Should I do this, that, this or that as like part of the kind of core wound that fueled this kind of need to numb with substances, because that sense of wavering and not being able to trust, anything is so painful that of course you'd want to block it out, right? And then also in that this or that faculty of the mind, there's this underlying belief that there's only, first of all, 2 choices, 2 options for any decision, right? One of them, if I choose it, everything will be great. The other one, I'm totally fucked and I can't figure out which one it is, right? When in reality, we know there's usually like a wide field of possibilities that if there's a sense of pause, we can actually kind of open up into them. So, the meditation practice for me is sometimes short now that I'm, a mama. And I try to make it okay to sit for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, even though I used to have a 45-minute practice, first thing in the morning every day. That there's something about just pausing long enough to drop in and say, okay, I might not know anything right now, but I know that I'm breathing. I know that I can hear my daughter singing. I know that there's a fly that's been alive for 2 weeks in my house and I don't want to kill it, but I don't know how long it's going to keep going for, annoying me. That like kind of just really getting basic with the simplicity of sensory experiences does something to undercut the this or that debate mind, the doubting mind. So that, it makes meditation not so like, it's both a very spiritual practice and also a very practical practice, right? Like just giving us enough time to connect with the facts of experience, to land and orient to, okay, what else is true? And in the Buddhist teachings, as I understand them, there are like many kind of pointers to what the kinds of truth that we can orient towards, even when everything else seems a little shaky or swirly or uncertain. And the teaching that I mentioned earlier, the 5 spiritual faculties, it's a list of qualities of the mind that is awake. And we can start to develop all these qualities as we practice on the path. Practices which include our formal meditation practice, but also what it means to show up in community, what it means to be of service to others. Like all these are spiritual practice. And so the first of these is, of course, sada, faith. The others are effort, wise effort, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. But I think it's significant that this teaching starts with faith, right? Because there's a certain amount of faith that it takes to, or trust that it takes to actually even engage in meditation practice, right? Have to have like some inkling of belief that it might work for us, or to see someone else and hear about someone else's experience that it's benefited them, or to see some of the research, which can be a bridge for faith, I think, when it's hard to trust, something spiritual. We can just look at the research and see that, it seems to, there's no one that seems to be like particularly harmed by finding the right way into to meditation practice, although like there are many different practices, and so it doesn't have to be silent sitting meditation. It can be walking meditation, it can be chanting, it can be a bowing practice. Some of us are really supported by a more active practice all the time or at certain times, right? It doesn't have to be super long, it can be short pause, but finding whatever we can to create a sense that maybe we're not, the one person in the world that this won't benefit. We have some, we're special, but not that special. And in the classical teachings, this is called bright faith, because it's not the faith that is like, it's the kind of faith that like there's a spark in us that lights up and says, oh, this may be a possibility for me. This might work for me. This worked for someone I know, or I read something inspiring, or I saw some research that was compelling. Oh, this might work for me, right? And so the mind kind of perks up and brightens and says, okay, I'm going to try. And then eventually, over the course of a practice, over the course of, development of a spiritual practice, over the course of recovery, the bright faith starts to be kind of filled in by what's called verified faith. And verified faith is the faith that comes from our own experience. And so when we talk about in recovery, having like references, sober references, right? I'll never forget the first time I had to go to a party without alcohol, and I called someone in my recovery program, and I was like, oh my God, like, what do I do? Like, I have to go to this place. It's an art gallery. Like, people are going to be very cool, and I won't know what to say to anyone. And she listened to me kind of like, anxiety attack. And then she just kind of said, well, maybe you can walk to someone and ask them how their day was and what they think of the painting. And I was like, oh, brilliant. But that really stuck with me, right? Like, oh, like it doesn't have to be so, I don't have to put on a show. I can just, look around and refer to something that's happening in the present moment and ask someone, that I don't know what they think of it. And that's a way to make a connection. And so that's like that I mean by like we have, these experiences where we think we cannot do something, it's going to be a disaster, and then we do, and we find out it's like, it's cool. I've had this a lot in social situations in early recovery. Like I remember this one time where I had said I would go to it's a barbecue or something, and I said I would go, and then I didn't want to go, and I called someone else in recovery, and they were like, we, stick to the plan and like, make good on our commitments. So I know you feel anxious right now, but you're just gonna go. And even if you go there and you literally walk around the park 3 times like a weirdo and never go talk to the people that you're supposed to be there to see, fine, but at least you showed up. And so I went and I showed up, and again, like moment after moment, just, hello, how's it going? Yes, I'll have a hot dog, like what's your favorite kind of chips? And then, the just kind of moment to moment life happened. Right? So, and of course, there's like the faith of the actual practice where we start to see that, I mean, I don't know about you all, but I've certainly had those times where I think like, oh, I cannot actually even, my day is so busy, I cannot even sit for more than 5 minutes. And I sit down for 5 minutes and the timer goes off and I think, oh, that was so good, just another 5 minutes, and extend the time. Because you had this experience of feeling like we can't actually pause at all. There's no way. And then we sit down and realize like, oh, not only can I pause, but when I do, I experience relief. Like the relief doesn't actually come from ticking off more on my to-do list. The relief comes from allowing myself to be more human in this moment. And to supporting my humanity by being gentle with myself and giving myself time to just, settle and decompress. So, in terms of what we can put our faith in, pointing to a couple of the Buddhist teachings that might be helpful, and then, I want to wrap up in the next 4 or 5 minutes so I can hear about your experiences, but certainly there's the teaching on bodhicitta, or Buddha nature. And this was something that was very like impactful for me coming into the world of the Buddha Dharma. Whereas there are some, the faith tradition that I grew up in had a premise of like basic badness, right? Like bad until proven good, bad until you do something that makes you a good person, makes you better. That Buddhism had this other perspective of, no, you're already good, and that even meditation is not a self-improvement project. It's not like fixing something that's broken. It's creating the conditions so that our natural beauty, our natural luminosity, our natural goodness and awakeness can shine. And the idea that all of us have that no matter what we've done, no matter what anyone said to us, that it can never be taken away, that it can never fade, and then it's always like it's like a seed that's always just like waiting for us to be ready to water it and shine some light on it so it can grow. Doesn't get mad, doesn't get stale, doesn't get moldy, just waiting there patiently for us to give it some space to blossom. So that's been helpful in terms of like, when the mind becomes very self-critical or judgmental or, not good enough starts to come in, or I think of all that time that we wasted, it could have been doing something else with our lives, and look at all these other people the same age as me and they're doing this and I'm not that, like all that, to just remember like, oh, bodhicitta, like she gets another chance, or even in the plethora of, it's big business to convince us there's something really wrong with us, right? Wrong, we don't smell right, hair is not the right color, body's weird, like to be able to, like it's great to like, smell nice, and I like to put on lipstick as much as the next girl, but like even in that, to just say like I'm not putting, it's not because there's something wrong with me, it's because this is the way I care for my body, but already good, already beautiful, nothing to fix here. So that's one of the things where, we sometimes have to take a bright faith, like, okay, you might get inspired that this is a possibility to feel that bodhicitta's here. And then really checking out for ourselves, when we look at children, when we look at animals, ones that are so closest to like the creator, can we see it? And weren't we all children once? So could it be possible? that maybe all of us still have that little bit of like spark inside. Something for us to kind of consider and practice with. Another thing that comes to mind that the Buddha talked about as like a feature of our reality that we can't that we can trust is the truth of change, the truth of impermanence. And when things are going well, this is kind of bad news. When things are going shitty, it's great news. This literally cannot stay the same. It can't. Bad moods can't stay the same. Tough financial situations can't stay the same. Horrible moments in our relationship can't stay. It can't stay the same, because that's not how this world works. Everything changes. Everything changes. And that was something that was really important to me to learn in my recovery too. To have spent so much time trying to find something outside of myself that would change the way I feel, and then making a commitment not to do that, and seeing that over a course of the day, my moods are like, weather on a tropical island. Like, it's a storm, and then it's sunny, and it's stormy, and then it's sunny, and it's stormy, and it does it by itself. If I don't do anything about it, the mood will change. And of course there are things I can do and should do, at times to shift out of a bad mind state. But look, like change will happen, and we can support change and shape change through our actions, through our loving actions to ourselves, through the way that we show up for each other that gives us a healthy sense of self-esteem, right? So that's one place I like to put my trust in, that things are always changing, and I can expect things to change. I could go on. I mean, the Buddha Dharma is full of these, like, pointing to like the places we can put our trust in. You guys named many of them in the chat. The goodness of the earth, the presentness of the breath, the power of love. But I think I'll just say this in closing, that for me in my recovery, it has been very helpful to reflect on these things and to like center them, stabilize my awareness of them, because I have a mind that has a tendency towards doubt, and because I live in a world that, doesn't encourage me to trust myself, frankly. That I can say, okay, these things I know to be true, and that when in doubt, when in debate, to be able to center and let my mind rest on something that I really trust. That the doubt, like weather storms, will blow over often if I can just kind of center in one of those anchors. And that it is important to have relationships where I trust others with my uncertainties, insecurities, wonderings, And it is equally important that I find what I can trust for myself and my own experience. Both are true. Both are beautiful. And I wish both for each of you and for myself as well. So perhaps a little longer than I meant to, but I would love to hear if anyone has anything else that's on their mind that they'd like to share. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Kate. That was so beautiful. Thanks, Kate. And thanks for staying for a few minutes longer.